The desperate search for an 8-week-old baby after its fugitive parents are found. Constance Martin and Mark Gordon have been on the run with the newborn for almost 2 months. They were finally spotted and arrested in Brighton, but there was no sign of the baby. Police say they are extremely concerned.
As the weather is closing tonight, as it was last night, in terms of the coldness and the impact that would have on a baby, clearly the risk is getting higher.
Well, the missing baby's had no medical care since it was born at a roadside in early January. Police are questioning the parents amid fears it has come to serious harm. Also tonight, the PM's charm offensive. Rishi Sunak's been in Belfast to convince DUP doubters to accept his new Brexit deal. Another teachers' strike in Scotland and the north of England. Tens of thousands walk out, causing many schools to close. And a hometown welcome for Sir Lenny Henry down with the kids in Dudley for World Book Day.
It's a joy to be in the Midlands and to have 600 kids going, "Ah!" Which is what happened yesterday in Wimbledon.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. Detectives in Brighton are desperately searching for a missing 8-week-old baby tonight as the infant's parents were arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. Constance Martin and her boyfriend Mark Gordon were found in the city last night after evading police for weeks, but there is still no sign of their baby. And police say there are growing fears it may have come to harm. From Brighton, Sejal Courier has the latest.
Tonight, a major search for the missing baby is still underway, stretching 91 square miles and involving more than 200 officers. Some combing through an allotment and surrounding woodland in Brighton all day, scouring bins, bags and bushes in a hunt they described as urgent. That search, minutes from where the newborn's parents, Constance Martin and Mark Gordon, were arrested, initially on suspicion of child neglect. Tonight, the police said they've been further arrested on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter.
We feel that the risk is getting so great that we now have to consider the possibility that the baby has come to harm. As time progresses, as the weather is closing tonight, as it was last night, in terms of the coldness and the impact that would have on a baby.
Paul Cavill, who lives close by, was woken in the middle of the night by all the police activity.
Looked through my bedroom window outwards and saw lots of policemen with torches and everything.
What do you make of what's going on?
I was just really shocked that they're here, and I just think, well, where is the baby? You know, it's just it's upsetting, really.
The alarm was first raised on the 5th of January when the couple's car broke down on the M61 near Bolton and caught fire. Since then, they've spent weeks evading police by travelling across England by taxi, first to Liverpool, then Essex and on to London, dumping a pushchair in the east of the city. On the 8th of January, CCTV caught them in Newhaven in East Sussex, 16 miles away from Brighton, where they were found and arrested yesterday evening. Numerous CCTV cameras had captured Constance Martin and Mark Gordon as they crisscrossed the country after leaving their home in London in September, carrying a large amount of cash to live off-grid. When Ms Martin, an aristocrat from a wealthy background, began showing the first signs of pregnancy. Tonight, the couple are in custody, but so far there's no sign of their baby.
Well, that search is still continuing in the allotments in the woodlands behind me, and the police still don't know the gender of the baby or indeed where that baby is, despite questioning the couple in custody. They say they are remaining hopeful, but they are growing increasingly concerned for the welfare of the child, and they say that they don't know if this case will end and close in the way that they would want. Sejal Courier in Brighton, thank you.
The Prime Minister was in Belfast today, meeting politicians and businesses to discuss his new Brexit deal for Northern Ireland. Rishi Sunak says a so-called Windsor framework does address the concerns of unionists. And he told businesses that they have the huge benefit of remaining in the EU single market while still being part of the UK. From Northern Ireland, here's our political correspondent, Carl Dinnan.
The Prime Minister does like his sugary drinks, and talking to employees at a Coca-Cola bottling plant here, he was fizzing with enthusiasm for his new Brexit deal.
If we get the executive back up and running here, Northern Ireland is in the unbelievably special position, unique position in the entire world, European continent, in having privileged access, not just to the UK home market, which is enormous, 5th biggest in the world, but also the European Union single market. That's like the world's most exciting economic zone.
That is the access the whole country once had, but Northern Ireland alone retained it under the Brexit protocol agreed by Boris Johnson. He hasn't said yet whether he supports the Prime Minister's reworking of it.
You're going to vote for the deal, Mr Johnson?
The new Windsor framework offers a green lane with no checks for goods travelling from Britain to Northern Ireland. Goods carrying on to the Republic of Ireland will be checked. It also offers a so-called Stormont break, whereby the Stormont Assembly will have the chance to stop new EU laws applying to Northern Ireland. The question is whether all this will meet the tests the DUP have set to go back into government here.
We need to take time to study the legal text, the political declaration and the command paper to get legal advice and to come to a considered view on this. So, as I have said, it will take as long as it takes, and I hope that we can do that within a reasonable period.
In the loyalist heartland of the Shankill Road, there are mixed views about whether yesterday's deal is enough.
The big guns are saying, it'll suit everybody, but you need to see the whole lot, read right through it. To find out, because there's probably a couple of wee dodgy ones there.
Should Jeffrey Donaldson take the deal, go into Stormont again?
No, definitely not.
I think so, yes. You think it's got rid of the protocol well enough, or at least fixed the problems?
They haven't got all they want, but you never get all you want.
Brexit has been an unsettling experience for many people here, and even amongst those with a British sense of identity, there is little trust left in British governments. Carl Dinnan, ITV News, Belfast.
Well, our Deputy Political Editor, Anushka Astana, is in the Houses of Parliament, where Rishi Sunak has met with his backbench MPs. So go on then, Anushka, how's the deal being taken?
Well, listen, when Conservative MPs are happy and they want to support you, they do one thing, they bang tables. And when Rishi Sunak walked into a room of his backbenchers, there was a lot of table banging. You could hear it all the way down the corridor. One MP came out, I said, how did it go? They just said, oh, I love Rishi. So clearly people were very happy. The PM said that he wants to build on this momentum, that he wants to move on, admitting he's under pressure on other issues like small boats. But not everyone is convinced. There were worries raised in that room about whether the DUP will actually accept this deal and go back into power sharing. And actually another meeting is now underway down the corridor, a much cooler meeting, I imagine, of the European Research Group, the most ardent Brexiteers on the Conservative backbenches. They're not so convinced. They've set up a legal panel to go through the detail, and they'll come back on that. Interestingly, the Minister, Steve Baker, came out and said everyone now is waiting with bated breath for the DUP.
Anushka Astana in the Houses of Parliament. Thank you. Now, tens of thousands of teachers across Scotland and the north of England walked out on strike again today over pay. Members of the National Education Union are staging action across the week. Many schools have had to shut to almost all pupils, posing challenges for parents, pupils and teachers alike. Here's our social affairs correspondent Sarah Corker on the long-running dispute.
Empty corridors and darkened classrooms at Wales High School near Rotherham. Half of the teachers here are on strike and just 30 of the usual 2,000 pupils are in class.
Are we ready to do a take?
Exam students are being prioritised today.
We are missing out on valuable learning time because we are in year 13, so it's really important for us to get as many hours as we can.
The cost of living is going up, so the only thing they can at least try and do is get more pay so they don't go under and can't afford the house and stuff.
But this is a generation of children already behind on learning due to COVID.
I'm extremely concerned. I'm sure many head teachers are feeling the pressure at the moment to make sure that these students get the best possible support given the last 3 years that they've faced.
Unions have rejected a 5% pay offer. And across the north, tens of thousands of teachers walked out. A mass rally in Leeds, smaller pickets in Newcastle, and a national day of action in Scotland. Since 2010, senior teachers have had their pay cut in real terms by more than £6,000 or 13%, according to independent analysis. For new teachers, the starting salary in England is due to rise to £30,000 a year, while pay for teaching assistants starts from between £14,000 and £16,000.
This dispute isn't just about pay. Schools are warning that they're facing a staffing crisis as a third of teachers quit within the first 5 years.
I have a lot of friends who've left already within a year and a half or had issues with their mental health and had to take breaks from teaching. So it's finding a sustainable future for myself.
You have to think in the long term, and in the long term the kids are going to be hurt by not having TAs, by having unspecialised teachers.
But unforgivable is how ministers have described today's walkouts.
It's really disappointing, and I would urge the NEU to pause the strikes and come around the negotiating table and let's start these serious discussions.
Further strikes, though, are set for the next 2 days in other parts of England and Wales, as teachers say the sums just don't add up. Sarah Corker, ITV News in Sheffield.
Bit of other news now. And Sainsbury's has announced it will close 2 Argos depots in a move affecting 1,400 jobs. The supermarket plans to close centres in Basildon in Essex and in Greater Manchester over the next 3 years. It has been integrating its Argos and Sainsbury's operations to cut costs. And a woman who pretended to be a doctor for more than 20 years has been sentenced to 7 years in prison. Zolia Alemi earned more than £1 million from the NHS over forging documents, including a degree certificate, and claiming to be a psychiatrist. At Manchester Crown Court today, she was jailed for 20 fraud offences. Now, the transgender rapist Isla Bryson has been jailed for 8 years for attacking 2 vulnerable women. At the time of the rapes, Bryson was a man named Adam Graham and began transitioning whilst awaiting trial. Well, the case sparked outrage after Bryson was originally held in a women's prison. Our Scotland reporter Louise Scott is at the High Court in Edinburgh this evening. So, Louise, what did the judge say?
Well, Judge Lord Scott said Isla Bryson continues to vehemently deny committing either offences, saying, "You see yourself as the victim in this case, you are not." Bryson appeared in court wearing a fluorescent pink jacket, having last month been found guilty of raping 2 vulnerable women within the space of 3 years, while still a man known as Adam Graham. The judge deemed Bryson at high risk of reoffending, imposing an 8-year sentence alongside a 3-year supervision.
I am concerned to ensure that the public is adequately protected against serious harm from you when you are released from prison. It is plain that you present a particularly significant risk to any woman with whom you form a relationship.
Well, Bryson transitioned after being charged and was initially placed in a female Cornton Vale prison. But following public and political backlash, Bryson was moved to a male prison, and a review is underway currently in the Scottish Prison Service. It's also heightened the debate over the Scotland's government plans for self-ID gender reform bill, which is also polarising the SNP leadership debate currently.
All right, Louise Scott in Edinburgh. Thank you. Well, there is more still to come in the ITV Evening News, including the mother of the murdered British backpacker, Grace Millane, on her efforts to help women escaping domestic abuse. And why Sir Lenny Henry is on a mission to get children reading.
I went to Dudley Library every week and it opened my mind, and I think that's what all kids should be doing.
We will be back after the break. Join me then. Bye-bye. welcome back. The mother of a British backpacker who was murdered in New Zealand has told ITV News about her campaign to help survivors of domestic abuse. 22-year-old Grace Millane was killed on a Tinder date during a gap year travelling the world in 2018. Well, now her mother, Jill, has launched a charity in Grace's name. Garen Vincent has this exclusive report.
Grace Millane died the night before her 22nd birthday. She'd just graduated from university and she was travelling around the world. She was just a few weeks into what she called her big adventure.
She, very, very free spirit, a very independent woman. Yeah, she was just a lovely girl, and just all she ever wanted to do is see the world and enjoy life, which she did too.
Grace was strangled by a man she went out on a date with. On CCTV from Auckland in New Zealand, you can see her walking into a bar with him on the night she died. Little did she know that Jesse Kempson had a history of violence against women. He's currently serving 17 years in jail. Back home, the people who loved Grace have set up a charity to help women who are trying to escape their abusers.
I was very naive until Grace was murdered. I didn't realise that this was such a big problem. You sort of have your stereotypes and your ideas about domestic abuse, but it can be your work colleague, it can be your neighbour.
From an upstairs room in the family home, handbags are filled with toiletries and pampering treats, and they're sent to the refuges and shelters where women might suddenly find themselves spending the night.
I have good days and bad days. Not so much of the good days, but as I said, this really does help. The bag is just a bit of love, really. It's like telling them that you're worth something, and we'd love to give it to you, and maybe put a smile on your face that you might not have had for a long, long time.
Jill and Hannah started out with the aim of delivering 50 bags. Now they've sent thousands around the world, and each one comes with a card. Love, Grace. Geraint Vincent, ITV News.
The disappearance of rugby player Levi Davis has been handed to a specialist investigation unit to establish whether a crime has been committed. The 24-year-old former Bath and Worthing player was last seen leaving a bar in Barcelona 4 months ago. Catalan police said the case has no logical explanation. In cricket, there was a breathtaking end to England's second test against New Zealand, with Ben Stokes' side losing by just 1 run. It is only the second time that's ever happened in Test history. Veteran James Anderson was the final wicket to fall, and means the 2-match series was drawn. And the Prince and Princess of Wales went head-to-head in a spin class at a leisure centre in South Wales today, with Kate declared the winner. The royal couple were in Wales to show their support for local mental health initiatives ahead of St David's Day. And finally, to TV royalty now, and Sir Lenny Henry was back in his hometown of Dudley today to help celebrate World Book Day. The comedian and author read to children from one of his own books to underline the importance of boosting reading levels. Our correspondent Ben Chapman heard his story.
Tunde! Everything slowed right down.
He made his name, making people laugh. But as a children's author, Lenny Henry wants to spread the joy of reading. Today, to 600 primary school children who grew up where he did.
When I was 8, I read books because my Auntie Pearl took me to Dudley Library and said, go in there and get any book you want and take them home and keep them there because they'll never come and looking for you. And I thought, that's a good deal. So I went to Dudley Library every week, and it opened my mind, and I think that's what all kids should be doing. Got any jokes?
Yeah. To that end, he's made his latest book available for free in exchange for a World Book Day voucher that every school child in the country will receive this week. And it seems he's already inspired some budding writers.
When do the ducks wake up?
I don't know.
At the quack of dawn.
Really?
Even aspiring comedians.
I think it was very inspiring, and I think I might actually read more books and maybe create my own. After him reading some of the parts of the book I want to read the book, so I'm going to ask my parents to get the book for me.
There's 500,000 kids who don't have access to books. That's a lot of kids. So anything that helps them, and World Book Day is a charity, so they give these vouchers to schools and they can buy a book. They can have a book. I mean, there's other ones you can get, but this is clearly the best one. Books are amazing. Read as much as you can.
His mission as a writer has been to give kids characters they can identify with and use his unique brand of enthusiasm to get them hooked on reading. Ben Chapman, ITV News, Dudley.
And that's all for now. The weather's next. Julie's here with the news after the FA Cup football later. From me and the Evening News team, bye-bye.